new McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse Adam West Batman has been nominated for Toy of the Year, but is this really Toy of the Year worthy? Quick, old chum, to the review station! Welcome, citizen, to 5 Points of Articulation. Starting off with the packaging, and things are a little different this time. Not only do we have that Batman Classic TV series logo, there's also a blurb telling us about a sweepstakes. It's for a limited edition replica cowl. In fact, we even get that Classic TV series logo up top, and on the spine, on the back, we get a stock photo of Adam West. And believe me, we'll be referring back to this a lot in the next category. The box is a bit more cluttered than usual, but I do at least appreciate the TV style branding. For packaging, Batman gets 4 points. Moving on to presentation, and Batman stands at 7 inches or 18 centimeters and is technically an all-new sculpt. Looking at the basic shape of the legs, however, as well as the fabric tugs, I think McFarlane started with Nightfall as the base for the lower half, but then went in to soften the details for this guy. And yeah, softened is a pretty good word to describe this Batman. I'm not saying Adam West was doughy or out of shape. In fact, Batman credit taker Bob Kane said Adam West had the perfect height and proportions for Batman. I'm just saying there weren't exactly any muscles bulging through the suit. As such, the figure does look kind of plain, and that diaphragm joint really sticks out. In a situation like this, I would have much preferred them to have made the entire torso one solid piece with a ball joint at the waist. That's how NECA approached their figure, and while not perfect, at least it isn't quite as broken up. As we'll see in the next category, that giant belt and high shorts are going to get in the way of articulation anyway, so it's one small change that would have made it look at least a little bit better. Beyond that, the sculpted details are mostly fine. The gloves and boots are sufficiently wrinkly, and all the basic details of the belt are there. My only issue with the belt, as with the 6-inch version, is the buckle. Here, McFarlane's given it a raised bat symbol. When referring back to the box, it's clearly flat with the bat as a painted detail. And as long as I've got the box in hand, I may as well address the other issues. The most notable being the face. Don't get me wrong, in terms of sculpting, it does basically look like Adam West, but one of the bigger issues is the painted detail. Referring back to the box, it's just completely off. They got it right on the replica cowl, so it's not like they don't know how it's supposed to look. Heck, they even got it right on the 6-inch version. To me, the bigger offender is the color. Referring to the cape, which we'll be talking more about in a second, it's a very rich metallic blue, and again, referring back to the box, that's how the whole thing should look. Not to bring up NECA again, but they absolutely nailed that part. So then here, not only is the blue wrong, but it completely clashes with the cape, which is correct. Well, in terms of color anyway, because this cape is enormous. On the show, Adam West's cape didn't even go down to his ankles. Here, it's even taller than he is. As I said in my Hugo Strange review, it's a pretty well accepted belief at this point that the factories mixed the two capes up. For reasons I'll get to in Playability, I speculate we're going to be getting more of this guy down the road, and when that happens, I really hope that McFarlane corrects not only the length of the cape, but the color blue on the costume. I'd also like to see the utility belt corrected, but for a supposed Toy of the Year, I would expect better. As is, I think this is merely okay. For presentation, I'm giving this Batman 3 points. Moving on to Posability, and let's see just how dynamic this half of the dynamic duo really is. From the top, and Adam's head is on a dumbbell joint. He can look up this high, and here he is looking down. Unlike later Batman, West had no trouble tilting his head, or for that matter, turning it side to side. He's got a really nice arm raise. This is aided by the wibbly-wobbly rotator cuff. Moving down, and Bruce has bicep swivel, double-jointed elbows with that perfect McFarlane bend, and wrist balls that can swivel and hinge either up and down or side to side. Moving to the middle, and the Adam West Batman has a diaphragm joint and a dumbbell waist. He can arch back this far, but I kind of get the impression that if the belt wasn't so high, he could get even more. Here he is standing up straight, but unfortunately no real hunch forward whatsoever. No trouble with tilt for when whipping out those dance moves, and of course twist. Below the bulky yellow utility belt, and Batman has the typical McFarlane hips. He can kick just under 90 degrees, but gets a near perfect split. Traveling down the leg, and Adam has an ample amount of twist in the hip, double jointed knee with a nice deep bend, toe articulation, and ankle balls that can swivel, hinge, and like people's perceptions of Batman himself thanks to this show, pivot. Mainly due to the diaphragm and waist. For Posability, I'm giving this Batman another 3 points. Moving on to playability, and this Batman is surprisingly well packed for a basic release. We do of course get our standard DC Multiverse figure stand, but instead of a trading card, this Batman comes with a scratch-off for the sweepstakes. As for accessories, Batman has a Batarang with a suspicious hole punched in it I'm going to be revisiting later. He's also got his Bat Communicator. Given that Batman is preloaded with 2 accessory holding hands, he can hold both of those at the same time. Of course, when it's time to bust out those Batusi moves, he's got these alternate hands, as well as this pointer for scolding Robin, and this one, which I assume is for crushing your head. We can't forget the wired cape. True, it's too big, but it still adds a lot of value. But playability is more than capes and communicators, it's also about how well your figure plays with others. First off, it only makes sense to start with the rest of our Adam Wests. If you'd like to see me do a versus of these guys, let me know in the comments. Otherwise, for the rest of the live-action Batman, and here we have Michael Keaton, Val Kilmer from Batman Forever, George Clooney, who killed the franchise, Christian Bale, who brought it back, Ben Affleck, who tragically never got his own franchise, and Robert Pattinson, who's one movie into his. For some comic-style Cape Crusaders, and here's 3 Jokers in Rebirth, blue and gray and black and gray versions of Hush, blue and gray and black and gray versions of Nightfall, and just because this one feels appropriate, Year 2. That said, and for some Superman options, and here's regular and gold label versions of Action Comics 1000, as well as DC Classic and Year 2. No real Robin options available at this scale yet, but there are a couple of Batgirls you could work with. As for some villainous options, and here's the Clown and Silver Age versions of the Joker, Nightfall and Anne Hathaway versions of Catwoman, the Collector Edition Penguin, and the classic style Riddler. If McFarlane would just give Robin and these 4 villains the DC Multiverse treatment, that's all I'd ask for. Wishful thinking aside, and for a relative scale comparison, here's Batman with Pizza Spidey and the Spectacular Spider-Man, and as always, here he is with Stealth Iron Man. I certainly hope we don't have to trade barbs, Mr. Stark? Well, that depends. Which barbs are we trading? If it's Gordon, then yeah. Now, I know y'all love head swaps, but with Adam West being such a specific Batman, I don't think it really makes sense here, but I bet I could interest you in a cape swap. First, I hit Hugo Strange with a hairdryer long enough to be able to peel back this cowl layer. From there, it was just a matter of tugging the cape off. Keep in mind how large that hole is, though, and also the exposed wire. Doing the same thing to Adam West, I was eventually able to peel up on the mask and then pull the cape out. You'll notice though that this hole is much smaller. The longer, fuller cape is a perfect match for Hugo. I opted not to put that plastic cowl piece on, and I like it a lot better. To be honest, I think I'm just going to glue it down like this. As for Adam, just look at the difference that shorter cape makes. The hole is unfortunately a bit big and there is that wire to glue down, but with a little more work I think there's something here. Before gluing anything down though, I think I'd like to do a bit of repainting first, and if you'd like to see that, sound off in the comments. So let's revisit this Batarang. That hole is perfect for a string. It wouldn't surprise me if we didn't get Robin, maybe in a 2-pack with their bat ropes, climbing the side of a building. And as long as they fix the cape, and maybe the colors, that would be fine. My only other request would be a pair of fists. I fully expect another edition of this in black and red to recreate the Italian posters. Beyond that though, I do have to admit, this figure is really well packed. For playability, I'm giving Adam West Batman 5 points. This leaves us with nothing left to discuss but the price. An all-new sculpt with a wired cape and 6 accessories for $22.99? Even with this figure's shortcomings, that's an incredible deal and the kind of value I like to see. For price, I'm giving Adam West Batman 5 points, averaging out to a grand total of 4 out of 5. So yeah, not quite Toy of the Year. I don't even think it's the best McFarlane figure this year. That, however, is a conversation for another day. For more live-action Batman, check out one of these. Tune in next time, same bat channel, and until then, play nice and have fun.